Right, just to let you all know, we are live. Hello, good evening and welcome to Weymouth Town Council Planning and Licensing. And we'll start with item 1 on the agenda, which is apologies for absence.
Get there in a minute.
No, we'll hear you. We'll hear you.
Chairman, I've got to give it 7.
Yeah.
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Northam and Councillor James.
Thank you very much. Any other apologies? No? No? So if I could have a proposal and a seconder that we accept those apologies. That's proposed by Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Orell. All those in favour? That is unanimous, Nicky. We can now move on to item 2. Just to remind all councillors, have we any declarations of interest with regards to anything on the agenda tonight? Councillor Orell?
It's an interest, but not a pecuniary one. I live close to the proposed battery farm.
Yeah.
I'm very peculiarly interested in it.
Right.
Probably still cool.
Yeah, probably. Councillor Hamilton?
Thank you. I have a non-pecuniary interest as a founding member of the Weymouth Area Development Trust, which in the past has been concerned with the site of Lewis Key.
Thank you very much. If that's all, but bear in mind, if something does come up and you suddenly remember it, please shout up that you do have an interest. We come on to item 3, which is the minutes of the last meeting. I would like to ask members if they agree to the minutes of the last formal meeting held on the 9th of January as a true and accurate record, and that it can be signed as such. Yeah, so we have a proposer in, Councillor Bell, seconded by Councillor Orell. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Did you get that? I can now sign as a true and accurate record. We come now on to item 4, sorry, I beg your pardon, public participation. And this, we have members of the public have asked if they could speak on planning application to 41 Comfort Hill, Bowleys Cove Way. And I think we have Mr. Crosslands? Yeah, Crosslands, sorry. If you'd like to come forward and let us know. I think we'll all hear.
Do I push this button here? Yes.
Yeah, and you're on.
Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, I'd just like to thank the committee for allowing me to speak on the application for 41 Comfort Hill. First of all, introduce myself. I'm David Crossman. I'm the architect for the development. And behind me is Mr. Roberts, who is the contractor and applicant for it. Just as both local people, I live near the Oasis Cafe at Overcombe Corner, and Rob, as I call him, he's built other houses up on Bowleys Cove Way. So to make that point, just to say, those people are familiar with the area and don't want to spoil it at all. And I'd just like to start by reading a comment from it's Cynthia Bain, who lives at 43 Bowleys Cove Way, which is a house called Solace, which is the one closest to the proposal on the opposite side of the track. And her comment is, I'm writing in support of the proposed plan of the house on this land between 41 Bowleys Cove Way and the Roman Temple site. As the nearest neighbour living at Solace, I can only say, having had time to study the plans, how delighted I am that such distinguished architecture is being proposed for this interesting house, which can only enhance this historic site. So I started with that. Obviously, that supports our position. But what's more probably is the fact that it's the house that she now lives in was also designed and built by same team. And we had the same issues of the proximity to the Roman temple and the same initial objections from historic England and English heritage about that proximity. So you're probably familiar with the fact that we've had these objections again, that the house is disrespecting the setting of the Roman temple. With that particular house, what we did was commission archaeologists, and we did what is called a view shed survey, which is taking topographical sections running from the southeast right through to the southwest, from a position from the temple itself. And then we were able to demonstrate that the new building didn't actually have any adverse impact on the view shed from the temple. And consequently, that house was approved. We just talked about it on the way down there around 2010, 2011. So it's quite recent, and there were the same objections, as I say, from those two bodies. And I suspect, as on that occasion, the objections have been made as a sort of default setting. You know, they hadn't actually been out yet to look at the site. They'd done it from a desktop position. So we're confident when we get further involved in this, that we can demonstrate the same thing about the house. The elevation which faces north, I don't know if you can show that drawing. So it's on one of the next sheets. That's really a section. What I wanted to show you is the elevation, the north facing elevation. I forget what the drawing is described as at this moment, but I'll keep talking. It's designed so with a flat roof, and it's part of the house is undercroft. Yes, there I think you can see it. If you go up the drawing, yeah, it's in the bottom right corner, yeah. You can see that the actual visibility of the house is quite minimal. Not a lot higher than a garden fence, really. And the shrubbery shown there is already there, and it would be retained and encouraged to grow up against that. So it very much disguises the proposal in the same way that the Solis proposal on the opposite side of the track is disguised. In fact, when I describe it to people, some people don't even know the house is there because it's in this undercroft setting. And this one, when it's completed, would be the same, we believe. I mean, we're willing to make some more than willing to make some modifications to design if historic England and as English heritage require them, but we're confident we can overcome those problems. As you can see, we've accommodated the retention of the trees there, the two pine trees. At the ground floor, we've omitted the ground floor as it gets closer to the trees, so that we don't build into the root protection area. And that design concept, if you like, has been supported by our cultural report that it will work. And in fact, they're quite gushing about how they think it would be, a good thing to do to bring the house closer to the tree without actually threatening the tree.
Mr. Crossland,
Have they got
1 minute?
Oh, right, okay. Well, I better wrap up very quickly. What do I want to say? Yeah, I talked about trees, I talked about Solis, I talked about the objections. And we've also got no overlooking of the neighbours as well. That's all been considered very carefully. And we feel quite simply, to quote a certain Mr. Richard Butler, a comment I noticed on a local WhatsApp group, It is a well-designed to suit the infill location with a minimum impact on the environment, and that our aim during the design build was just to do that, to have no impact on the, have a negative impact on it, and make an eco-friendly house that blends into the environment rather than stands out. Ideal, I think would be the word. Okay,
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
We've got Mr. Bennett next, please.
Chair, I'm going to ask the first question.
Yeah, we'll get the, and then we'll go back to it, yeah. Start, yeah, please, yes.
I'll read from the objection itself. So, as Historic England indicate, the applicants have not submitted a desktop archaeological assessment addressing the impact of the development on the Roman temple, the scheduled ancient monument and adjacent area. And there is, of course, ample evidence of other Roman remains in the area. They've also failed to submit a geotechnical assessment of the stability of the site relative to the coastal retreat. Thus, in the absence of the above two pieces of work, the application is incomplete and should be refused on that basis alone. Should be emphasised, however, that the Historic England objection is unequivocal and stands irrespective of the conclusions of any desktop assessment. Other points are the proposal is met with nothing but objection from near and far, indicating the deep concern felt locally about the proposal. We note that they have amended the application to include the private road leading to it in the red line area. Should be emphasised that this roadway, while private and without footways, forms part of the public footpath network in the area, with at least two public footpaths converging to use it to gain access to Burley's Coveway, as well as the Roman temple, particularly during the summer months. This roadway is also a heavily used public footpath, also used for access to the temple, is already in a poor state of repair, thus construction traffic, etc., will be to all pedestrian users considerable detriment and danger. While we recognise that the applicant and his designer has gone to some lengths to design something that, in theory, has regard to the trees, etc., on the site, it's contrived and contrary to the overall spacious character of Bowley's area, nor does it have proper regard to its appearance when seen from the ancient monument, which appears to be a solid masonry wall. The development also involves a considerable volume of excavation from the earth bank within the site. This is likely to be detrimental both to the trees and to the roadway leading to the site, which is entirely unfit as a route for the removal of spoil, both given its poor structural condition and its status as a public footpath. Last but not least, it impinges on the outlook from the rear of our house, which has already been adversely affected by the approval of an extension at number 41 next door by inserting a two-storey flat roof block, where at the moment there is only trees and grass. While they may be seeking to emulate the development that is 43A, I think they refer to it as Solace, this essentially has a more elegant and sophisticated, i.e. semicircular plan form, surmounted by a circular tower form, is lower set and is on a less constrained plot. As a result, the current proposal fails to replicate the elegance of that development and is intrusive on the setting of the Roman temple. There is also considerable risk that groundworks, etc., will in practice adversely affect the maritime pines. Their loss would also be a considerable loss to the setting of the ancient monument and the area in general. As the occupants of one of the closest and most affected dwellings, therefore we must object strenuously to the proposal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor O'Leary.
Thank you very much. I'm Councillor Louis O'Leary, Milton Preston, Dorset councillor. Myself and Councillor Joanna Dickinson, who is one of the town councillors, put out a flyer in the area to gather views on this development from residents. We have had about 3 favourable and about 12 opposed to it. The concerns raised has been the effect it will have on the Roman temple. The developer or agent or the gentleman mentioned the property Solace, which is 43A. If you look on that map there, it is that one there. So it is far further to the right than this proposed development, so therefore it would have less of an effect. This proposed development is far closer to the temple and therefore would be more in the spillage zone, as it were, for archaeological interest, as well as the fact it will be far more visible. If you go up on the site yourself, the site is separated from the Roman temple by some greenery and some foliage of hedges. If this development was a one-storey development as opposed to a two-storey development, on this piece of land that is set further down than the temples on the lower land, you probably wouldn't see most of it. And therefore that would be a far more better proposal than a two-storey development. On the lack of overlooking, if you look at the top part of the development on the galley part of it, it directly looks into 39C and part of, I believe, 41. Back in 2020, this planning committee recommended refusal for two developments on the lower end of Bowleys Coveway on the open green space, largely due to the coastal retreat concern that a number of agencies have around Bowleys Coveway, which is why there is not so much development in this area now, and this concern still remains, even though this one's further back. There's been a number of objections, including as stated previously from Historic England, who are pretty firm in their objection and have submitted it very forcefully. And that was all I really have to say. So I would recommend refusal to you on the basis of those concerns. I think a compromise is there and would be there. But what particularly concerns me is the overlooking, the coastal retreat aspect. And I will add, because we mentioned previously, that footpath is a very busy footway and it's also in poor disrepair, and it's private footway as well, so it's not my fault.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crossland, Councillor Wakeling has a couple of questions he'd like to ask. Are you all right to?
Well, my question was quite simply, sir.
Yeah.
You say you've done archaeological work with Echo or something. How come you haven't submitted that as part of your application if it validates your points?
Why? Well, we spoke to the archaeologist and we discussed the history of this, which I spoke about before, with having a viewshed survey and everything. And his comment was, well, that's going to take some time anyway, so why don't we wait and see what objections have been made, and then we can counter them with a report. So we just took that pragmatic view. I mean, the same applies to the land stability report. We weren't sure, being that far back, whether we asked for one, but we were asked for one, and that has now been supplied from a geotechnical engineer who's done other schemes off of Bowleys Coveway and demonstrated the rate of erosion isn't quite as fast as previously predicted. But that's, that report is now in there and will be on the website. And very shortly, the archaeologist's report will be in there and on the website. So it wasn't, we weren't trying to be evasive in any way. It was just a practical. As you probably know, it takes quite a lot of different things. You have components to have a planning application to get them even registered. And there was quite a likelihood actually that this would still be waiting for registration now while the viewshed survey was being done. So it was just a timeline thing. I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and thank you to Mr. Bennett and to Councillor O'Leary for addressing the committee. I have a very simple question. How does the height of the proposed structure compare with the neighbouring homes?
It's below all of them, except perhaps with the exception of Solace. But even the top outlook platform on Solace will be of a similar height. And those levels are demonstrated on the drawings, yeah.
And the health of the trees that have been raised, how will they be protected?
If you don't damage the root of a tree, in other words, you don't build into the root protection zone, which is calculated against the type of tree, type of ground by an arboriculturist, then the tree won't be threatened in the least. Obviously, care will have to be taken during the construction, not to damage the actual physical part of the tree, but that could happen on any site. We would need to sort of fence off the root protection area and make sure to just be extra careful. I mean, the last thing we want to do is damage those trees because they're an integral part of the concept. Yeah. Thank you.
Just hold on, sir, hold on, you've got another question, if you don't mind.
Oh, right, okay.
Councillor Bergman.
Just a quick question. Do you have any response to the concerns about impacting on the public walkways? Perhaps.
Backing on to, in what way do you mean?
Impacting on the public.
Well, as I said before, in the first time I was up here, the actual height of the, okay, it's a two-story house, but the second, the ground floor is into an undercroft position. So the only bit that's above is the height of the story, which is about 2.5 meters, and it's set into the ground. So it doesn't appear any higher than a timber garden fence, which you could put up there anyway. We're not going to take away the vegetation on that. We want to disguise it. So we didn't do an LBIA on this because we knew we would be putting in the view shed. Our deduction was that it wouldn't have any more impact on views from the public footpath than a timber fence would on some of that for someone's garden.
Excuse me, could I come back on the question as well?
Well, it is for councillors now, I'm afraid.
Okay. I think
Okay,
it's unfair just to have that response to the question
Yeah.
when there's another view,
well,
which affects the
yeah,
answer to the question.
the councillors asked the question, so the councillors haven't got any questions other than that. That's where we're to on that now.
We can ask that gentleman.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
question.
Thank you. I think there are two things there.
Do you want to come forward, please? I think what's your question to him then?
Can you respond?
I think there are two things there based on the first question. I think the height of the property is underplayed by the applicant, and whilst it is lower than the other properties on Bowleys Hill, those properties are further forward, and therefore this one being further back has clear sight of the Roman temple. I think the other point that they're underplaying is the height. They're not stating the height above the ground which the Roman temple sits on. And Mr. Roberts himself stood in my property to try and sell the idea to me, and said he was going to put a post up which signified the height, which he has never done. But also he showed me the height at which he thought it would be, and it's significantly higher than a fence, and will overlook the temple and be the closest property to the temple.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
No more questions.
we can now move on to item 5, I think, the committee. Yeah,
If you want to discuss, you can make your comments now, if
Yeah.
you wanted to do that, so then the members of the public don't have to.
yeah, well, I was gonna bring it first into item 5. Yeah, is that, yeah? We can now move on to item 5, but I'd propose that we bring 41 Comfort Hill into item 5 so that we can carry on the discussion. I'll propose it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wakeling, all those in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous. So our first item for discussion, item 5, is 41 Comfort Hill. Would anybody like to open up on this one? Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I've just been looking at the local plan. I believe this is outside the defined development boundary for Weymouth, which is policy sus 2. Because the line goes very tightly down the back of the existing properties, Bowleys Code Way. And I also believe it's in an archaeological potential area, which is policy of N4. And looking at the comments already received, there are objections from Historic England and English Heritage, and a lack of archaeological assessment. So for those reasons, I'd like to start a proposal, which others may add to, for an objection, based on the fact that I think if until English Heritage and Historic England are happy with it, then I think in a similar way with back to the fire brigade and fire safety, we should back the heritage organisations on historic matters and archaeology. There's no archaeological assessment and it breaks those two local policies.
Councillor?
I'd just like a second, councillor Wakeling's objection.
No. Councillor Bell?
Just to add a comment to that. In total agreement with councillor Wakeling, we've just been having discussions prior to this about the importance of the heritage of our town, museums coming back into the town centre. It then seems, perverse to that to then be, causing mishap potentially and degrading a historic site that is in part of our environment, is there and enjoyed by the public, tourists alike. So for all the reasons councillor Wakeling stated, I think we should be objecting to this. We haven't got the archaeological information, and it's outside various development boundaries, or boundary. I would happily go along with what councillor Wakeling has said.
Any other councillors who'd like to comment? Councillor Hamilton?
I very much like the style and the design of the building. I'm concerned it's not in the right place. I think we have to object and represent the views of residents to Dorset Council. We act as consultees. Dorset Council are the decision makers.
I mean, we do have a proposal on the table from councillor Wakeling that we object on sus2. Two, that being outside the defined development boundary.
Yeah.
And then what was the third one?
The other one is ENV4, which is the archaeological potential of the site. There's no archaeological assessment.
Right. Did you get all that, Nicky?
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Yeah, it's proposed by councillor Wakeling, seconded by councillor Bergman. Should we go to the vote, gentlemen, ladies?
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favour of the proposal? That's unanimous. I'd like to thank everybody that came in to discuss this item. If you'd like to leave, if you could leave quietly, it would help. We can now move on to Brewers Quay, which I know councillor Wakeling and councillor Orell want to speak about. So we've got two real proposals there. I'll let you open it up, Luke.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank the developer for coming and speaking before, and very encouraged to see this building finally getting a bit of love that it's so desperately needed for so long. I know we normally do a no objection to things, but I would like to suggest we actively support this application.
Oh, we have done that before, yeah.
This is rare that we support them, but I think in this instance, I would like us to do so. Because I think it is the right thing to do, and the museum has indicated how they are happy with the space and the terms of their lease, and I think it's the right thing for this area, my ward, and the whole town.
Anybody else? Councillor Bell?
Just to add my note of support and the fact that the museum is so prominent, given the frontage that was discussed earlier in our meeting. Right, Alexa. The fact that the museum is going to be so prominent and provide an indoor space, recreation space, place of interest and education, I think is absolutely superb.
Yeah.
So again, I'd like to add my support to the proposals.
Councillor Orell?
Presentation, I probably regret the loss of car parking in the centre of town, but I understand you need to build on those car parks to get the scheme to be viable, so we have to accept the loss of car parking for the scheme to work. And as a scheme overall, it's a great scheme, and particularly to get these in black and white, so very supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and likewise, very supportive of the presentation. It would be a good asset to win.
Councillor Hamilton.
Same again.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for investing and also for improving the design, opening up the residence as you have described, giving that outside space. And absolutely delighted about offering a future to the museum to tell Weymouth's story. It's just amazing. Thank you.
So I think that from the committee, the feeling I get is that we would like to fully support this proposal, and we hope that Dorset Council will look on it favourably and work with the contractors to improve Weymouth and give us back our museum. Yeah, so I'll propose that. Do I have a seconder?
Can I just ask, are we gonna batch the two together, so
Yeah.
the full application
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
listed building site?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, yeah, so proposed by myself, seconded by councillor Bell. All those in favour? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. We now move on.
Yeah,
Yeah. We'll just let them, thank you for improving our town, hopefully. Keep up the work. Yeah. What's the next one?
It's land east of Mandeville Road.
Yeah.
And that's the oral, councillor Hamilton. wants to speak.
Yeah, so councillor Hamilton, kick off, please.
I'm sure you don't mean that, Chair. I have to object to this development. I am with a heavy heart because it's all affordable housing. But, and we know we have a huge number of residents who need affordable housing. But I support the comments of the Housing Enablement team who recommend mixed tenure. We've got a shortage of decent rented accommodation in our town. I also pick up on the Chickwell neighbourhood plan, because this is outside the Weymouth boundary. The Chickwell neighbourhood plan respects this as an important wildlife corridor. If I can open my computer again without it talking to me, I will do so. I can give you the relevant policy numbers for the Chickwell neighbourhood plan. We have to preserve that corridor from the Fleet to Curtis Fields, such as it is. Those are my two main objections. We have previously objected very much to the use of this land in this way. Chickwell neighbourhood plan. Paragraph 2.6.
So can you just repeat that, Lucy?
Chickwell neighbourhood plan, paragraph 2.6 and 7.5 and 7.6. Chickwell neighbourhood plan, policy 8. White Regis Wildlife Corridor. In any new development, we have to balance the needs of our residents today with the needs of future. That's what sustainable development is about. We have decimated the green lawn at Curtis Field. We have to sustain this wildlife corridor. Those are my objections.
Councillor Rowell.
Yeah, well, very much seconding those objections. I like councillor Hamilton, would welcome affordable housing. But it's balanced by the loss of the green space. And also my fear on, we've got too many times approved schemes with affordable housing and they get permission and they start going and then the affordable housing suddenly vanishes like a mirror. with viability assessments. So while it's tempting with this carrot and affordable housing, I think it's not persuasive enough to outweigh the loss of space and being outside of the boundaries. And we need to back cheaper town council plan. So I bring on second.
Would anybody else like to? Yeah, councillor Waitman?
Just to play devil's advocate for this one. One thing I've noticed is when we reject applications, there will always be a follow-up, and there's always a risk the next one's worse. So in some ways, I do look on favourably on having 32 affordable homes, and it nibbles a corner out of the green corridor. The next application we receive may be less favourable. There is a balance here between getting some affordable homes with a small amount of loss of corridor. We may get a future application that offers no affordable homes or something. So there's just to balance it. Yes, we have to consider that there are good elements to this, particularly the provision of affordable homes. It does still leave a small gap between Wyke and Main House, a smaller gap. And we do still have some green space at the top of Curtis Field that is too steep to build on, and the coastal bit they won't ever build on because of the risk of coastal flooding. So in some ways we lose a small area, but there are societal gains by having the affordable homes.
Councillor Bell?
Can I just ask, can we have the location and proposed site plan up on the screen? Because that will just clarify where the various demarcations are. It's from the 6th of October. It's the top file when you get in the documents. Just for clarity into what we're talking about.
So I've got the council slows now.
Good news is you're not going to have to scroll on the view documents. It's the first one. Still got to scroll. Hit the laptop. So from my understanding, looking at this, we've obviously got the new development in the red section. And I agree with what Councillor Wakeman says about the affordable houses. We constantly ask for them. We've got to find spaces for them. And then from what I can see, the green dashed line is the demarcation of the wildlife corridor. Is that a correct interpretation? Because if it is, the properties, I believe, are outside the wildlife corridor. I'm just asking for clarity reasons. I'm not really voicing an opinion either way, but it appears to me on there that the wildlife corridor is to the north of the green dash line.
That's what the planner suggests. I'm desperately trying to find out if this is outside the defined development boundary. I absolutely agree that there's provision made, but this is what planning law is for, is to get the balance between environment and houses. And I'm fed up with building houses that no one can afford. We all know that affordable is a misdemeanor. That's a polite term. And we know how degraded in Curtis Fields, that's right on top of the site of nature conservation interest. And yes, it's not built on it, but it degrades it.
Yeah. I wasn't really voicing an opinion, I was just looking for clarity on it, that's all.
Those houses where they're being built, are they at the back of where Norman's used to be?
Yeah.
Councillor Hamilton?
Well, in between where Norman's was and Camp Road.
Yeah, so there's no bus route there, is there?
No bus route.
I'm thinking about if you're a person trying to go and live in this style of housing, how are they going to get to the shops? Is there any transport links there? And I'm of the opinion, what's the point in having a neighbourhood plan if we don't support it when it comes in front of us. And obviously, this is outside Weymouth Town Council area, so we can only put in
It is partially in our area.
is it?
The line cuts through it.
Oh, it's not one of those.
There'll be more houses split, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, one concern, it's the part of town I grew up in, is Camp Road already struggles as a through road, doesn't it?
yeah, oh, yeah.
So that would certainly need some thought. I'm not sure whether that road has the capacity to add further traffic to it.
Yeah, the only problem is the minute you mention traffic,
Yeah.
highways say no problem. There was always concern about the junction at the bottom of Camp Road leading onto Lane House. Because, well, the highway said that the junction is not fit for purpose, and yet they're going to put more and more houses up there. So, do we have we have a proposal from Councillor Hamilton, and I think you give out the reasons being. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor? We have a seconder for Councillor Orrell. Before we go to a vote, I'm going to wait for Councillor Young to come back, if you don't mind. So I think could be an important vote.
Just reading the transport document.
Isn't it great that technology at our fingertips, we can't find out if it's involving the defined development boundary? Yeah.
No, so I'm pretty sure it's not in the defined development boundary.
No.
There's about 6 layers on top of each other. I'll try to work out which ones are which.
You know what, I think I remember now Chickwell Town Council make the point that it's outside the defined development boundary, so I'd like to add objection 3. Please.
How close is it to them?
Could we just read out the proposal? Have we got it, Nikki?
So objection on the grounds of the Chickerell neighbourhood plan makes the point that it's outside of the development boundary, and let me scroll up. Sorry. And we quote Chickerell neighbourhood plan policies, paragraph 2.6, 7.5, 7.6, and policy 8, the White Regis Wildlife Corridor.
Right, and that's seconded by Councillor Orrell. Anybody, anything else to add?
Well, and the housing policy, sorry, just concerned that there should be a mix of tenure.
Do you still agree with that being added, John? Yep.
Just possibly a thing to add. I'm just reading through the transport document. And basically, it transpires they haven't had to do a survey of road use because it's below the 50 unit threshold. But they have even commented on their own transport. The crux is their words. The crux of the matter is whether the junction of Camp Road and Lane House, Rocks Road, White Road, could accommodate the anticipated use. Then it goes on to say because they're below a certain threshold, they haven't had to assess it. That for me is a bit weak and wobbly when we know the area and the problems that already exist there.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we could, something
Definitely,
about transport concerns.
I think that's a great suggestion because it's always a concern for the Camp Road residents.
It's very, very tight.
They have survived the development at Norman's.
Yeah. So can we add that in some form?
So traffic concerns whether Camp Road can accommodate the extra traffic.
So, well, we have a proposal. John's happy to second it. Should we go to the vote? Yes, please. Right. All those in favour of Councillor Hamilton's proposal? Let's make it unanimous. We now go to 287 Dorchester Road. And this is Councillor Bell would like to talk on this one.
Yeah, I live quite close to this one, so I'm fully aware of the corner it sits on. In reality, it's more Ison Road than it is Dorchester Road, because it's the back of the property. They're proposing a dwelling. It's not the dwelling, it's not the dwelling I take issue with. It's the fact that on the location plan they supplied, there is basically an access to the back of several of the Dorchester Road properties where there is currently parking use. I am not entirely certain of the status of that access route, but on their location plan for this, if we can bring that up, you will see that, to my mind, they appear to have included the access route as part of the proposed dwelling. And that brings concerns about how the other residents, so it's the Dorchester Road properties have access at the back because they can't park on Dorchester Road there. It's right by Morrison's, traffic lights, all of those things going on. They can't possibly park at the front. And there's also been a query raised in the comments by a nearby resident. And I think this resident puts it perfectly. This is from Luke Mason. I would like clarification on the site plan. The red line on the site plan appears to include the access road used by at least 5 houses. I believe we all have access rights to the rear of our properties from this road track onto Ison Road. It's certainly well used. This is not like an abandoned feature. They do genuinely park on there and have done. Well, I've been living on Roman Road for 12, 13 years, whatever. It's always been used, and I'm sure long before then. So the resident, Mr. Mason, raised, is this access road actually owned by the developer? I would like clarification to be certain we would still have the right to drive vehicles on this road and track. So my issue isn't with the property itself, it's with the access for the adjacent properties. And I have had a look through all the documents and I'm not entirely sure what the situation is. But they certainly appear to have incorporated it.
Have we got a history of this?
What we're looking at here. That's not the right property.
Oh.
That's an entirely different shape. This is 287 Dorchester Road we're after.
Oh, I went to Ison Road at one.
Yeah, 287 Dorch Road. But in effect, the impact is on Ison Road and then the part of Dorchester Road.
Yeah.
On there somewhere.
Yeah, it's 00120. I'll put it in.
There you go.
One like the existing one.
That one and the proposed would be useful as well. Yeah, both open. Might do a loop and go and point at the screen. Well, actually, that'll do. So as I said, the dwelling isn't the issue.
If you, I'm at the, one of those there. The roof and site plan as proposed on the exam. So that appears to show a odd-shaped house and a car parking space, but also the driveway, still clear. I'm gonna just guess here, and I am guessing, the red line is what the land registry says belongs to that property, which is why they've drawn their red line. And I'm very sure it's not a material planning consideration, covenants and access are not, or ownership, unfortunately, are not material things we can object on. So I think that is effectively a matter of contract between the various neighbours and not a reason to object, to the best of my knowledge, but I'm happy to be correct.
I'm not necessarily suggesting an objection, I'm suggesting raising the point.
Could you go into the history of this?
I think the adjoining residents deserve the clarity of what's happening.
So
On Dorset, it's been before us before.
On Dorset Council's portal, issues they cannot consider, a breach of a covenant and personal property rights. Speculation on future use.
I mean, we can always put in principle, we have no objection. However, can the access rights please be before commencement of building? Is that something you?
Yeah, absolutely, because I don't see how the adjoining properties can raise concerns if they don't know what they're proposed. So there just needs to be that clarity so that the system works properly, it would seem to me.
So that could go in, do we need to vote on that, Nick? Yeah. Yeah,
Yes, comment.
so,
How are we phrasing?
So that on principle, we have no objection to the application, but can we request that access rights be clarified before commencement of building?
yeah,
Good to me. So I'll propose that.
you proposed by councillor Bell, seconded by councillor Laurel. Any more comments or no? Well, we can go to the vote then. All those in favour of the proposal? And that's unanimous. We now come to the applications that were received just prior to legal dispatch. Would anybody like to comment on the 1, 2, 3, 4 items in there?
Would you just go up a notch?
No? So proposal is that I'll propose it, that we move those 4 items into item 6 for no objection. Do I have a second there? Councillor Bell, all those in favour? And that is unanimous. And I think, Town Clerk, we're moving now on to item 6. And item 6, we don't have any, do we?
Want to plan applications, no comments, do you have any? No.
Sorry? Councillor Hamilton.
Yeah, apologies for the late request that we move the East Chickwell Port Farm battery energy storage system out of no comment and into item 5.
Well, there's the proposal. Seconder, councillor Young. All those in favour? Okay. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you. Firstly, I'm very happy with the comments that Weymouth Town Council made at the 10th of October meeting. I believe that we should sustain those comments and get clarification on the spacing between the containers. So I can't see that that still meets the requirement. And it's just too close to the houses. That's it. End of. Those 2 things.
Yeah. Councillor Young.
Right, yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, when we had the meeting where we talked about this before, yeah, I supported the scheme with the reservations that we need more clarity. I've looked into this a lot further and looking at we had key things were to do with fire, the containers were too close together, there was an enormous number of them, there was no upwind fire, given the prevailing winds, there was no upwind access for fire engines and things, and it was just too big. And it's in the wrong place. There are 2 large schemes, none quite as big as this. There's one near Swindon, one near Hull. A key factor there is they're both at least 2 miles from the nearest dwellings. This one is right next door to South Hill and other buildings around it. It's in the wrong place for that reason. The developer has given a reason that they need to be near a substation. Well, there's another application that we have that gives a lie to that completely. The one at Buckland Rippers. If it's financially viable to build a battery storage farm 2 miles away from here and lay the cables in, then it's quite possible for this one as well. Looking at the plans that have come back, they haven't addressed any of those key concerns that we had about fire. The containers are too close together. There's still no improved access for fire engines, firefighters. Yeah, so I could not support this application at the moment, having looked further into the scheme and similar schemes around the country, not without substantial amendment here.
Thank you. I don't know whether, I did get Nikki to forward the comments from the case officer. And because I phoned him up and I said, look, I need some advice and guidance. I've never come across this before. This is virtually brand new. I didn't vote for it last time because it goes against the Chickerell neighbourhood plan. And he said the big thing is the chief fire officer's report, and that hasn't come in yet. So he's waiting for that, because that is a big piece of planning evidence that he needs as a planning officer. It's very difficult to on building or what it does for a planning reason. A planning reason to say no. It's very difficult because they're new. But he is waiting for that. And I said, well, any other guidance you can give us, please let us know. So he has submitted these, and he put in areas of what they need to do. I mean, there's some strict regards to, if there is a fire, the water that the fire brigade use mustn't go into the water table. So that company has got to build something. So if there is a fire and the water goes in it, it's got to be held for a year before it's allowed. Now, I don't know how they do that. My thing is, again, we've got a neighbourhood plan and the neighbourhood plan says no.
Yeah.
Councillor Wakeling.
So, Councillor Bell and I are just comparing the first edition of the site plan to the revised one. So what we can see in differences, they've now got 2 ways in and out of the site. So they've listened to some of the comments from the fire brigade that they wanted alternative routes. They've still got the same attenuation ponds as the first time round. Yeah, they still looks the same number of containers, if I'm honest. So the only real difference we can see between these 2 sets of plans is they've just put a second-way access onto the site, which was one of the fire recommendations. I personally am minded to repeat our previous comments, because I think we basically said we listen to the fire brigade because they are the experts on this, we're not. And other than that, it looks like they've made some minor alterations, but yeah, comparing the 2 side by side, I'm not seeing a great deal of improvement, but yeah, they have for sure put a second road in.
Yeah.
So if we're looking for a proposal, I'm happy to propose we repeat our previous comment.
Have we got the previous comment to be read out on the agenda?
Shall I read out what we said last time, Chair?
So this is what's on the agenda.
Yeah.
I've got it to hand, if not, I can.
I go, it says, Weymouth Town Council support in principle this development, but insist that Dorset Fire Services comments are fully addressed. Note concerns regarding Chickerell Neighbourhood Plan Policies 4 and 10. We note concerns relating to the noise, and these need to be mitigated. The size of the site needs to be addressed due to the close proximity to Cold Harbour Lane. The developer needs to look at better solutions that have less fire risk, e.g. vanadium. Happy to propose we submit the same comment second time.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Right. Would anybody like to comment on the proposal that we're going to send up to Dorset County?
I'd agree with Councillor Wickling's proposal. We had an email on Thursday, the 25th, with the system planning guidance. Do we reference that? It kind of summarizes all the fire safety regulations that particularly having the 2 roads which have now got water collection, but also early detection on all the containers and an adequate water supply on site, not remotely.
Seems prudent.
It's grid scale battery energy storage system planning guidance.
The Environment Agency have no objection.
Exactly, yeah.
I think, yes, then maybe if we can add to the existing comment, just say we acknowledge the revised plans. Our previous comment, and then add on the end, we also would like to reference the NFCC Council guidance.
Yes.
Well, committee, we have a proposal on the table. Are we all sure about what we're voting for yet?
Right, yeah.
So the proposal is from councillor Wakeling. It's seconded by councillor Laurel. All those in favour? All those against? No abstentions. Got that, Nikki? Yeah. Right, we now go on. Item 6. Yeah,
Further to my email this morning, could we discuss 38 Maiden Street? please?
38 Maiden Street. Of course, yeah. You would like that moved out of 6 into 5? Or are you just going to make it, can we put a comment with it or?
Well, if we could discuss it, maybe members wish to leave it in item 6, so
Yeah.
let's have a discussion first, if that's
Yeah.
right, Chair.
Yeah, by all means.
So 38 Maiden Street is what some of us knew as Rum Shack, back in the day.
Oh, well.
The application here is to build, this is just reading the, application. So 2 houses and 2 maisonettes in that building, which I know has been derelict now for some time. My concern is its proximity to certain other venues that are still operating, and building 4 houses next door to the Closet, for example, may affect the viability of one of our remaining nightclubs. And I don't see any kind of acoustic plans or anything of that ilk in here. It suggests they've thought this through. And it's not, it's the same building, so, I mean, music carries through walls. Are there any other members that would sort of support a comment along the lines that they need to put acoustic plans and breaks in to prevent
Yeah, that's a good point.
the residents?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had this before, haven't we, with, yeah.
Well, it happens all the time. They build houses next to a nightclub and they complain 2 years later there's a nightclub, isn't it? You couldn't see that coming, couldn't you?
Yeah, and yet we have supported where they added something and the local resident, we did try and get things in place.
I mean, I'd like to see I don't know if you call it an acoustic assessment and the developer putting efforts into soundproofing property.
So the first thing is to move it from item 6 into item
If
5.
members are happy to, then yes,
Yes,
please.
so if our proposal from councillor Wakeling, seconded by councillor Bell, all those in favour? Yeah, so that's unanimous. And the comment you would like to?
So the comment I'd like to add, I guess it is then an objection, so our comment gets read,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
we don't believe there's been adequate assessment of the acoustics, and we'd like to see the developer provide a soundproofing plan to keep noise out of these houses.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
Councillor Bell's just reading some comments. There's another comment about lack of parking.
Yeah.
Obviously, if they're putting 4 flats in that area, there is no parking on Maiden Street. So that would impact that. John, it's your ward. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, the lack of parking, they'll always say it's because there's adequate public transport in the town centre, so that's the counter argument. A lot of my residents live nearby and are very keen for it to be converted because of the amount of grief they had from the previous establishment. So, yeah, but the safeguard of putting in the soundproofing sounds pretty wise.
Well, we have a proposal, we have a seconder. Councillor Bell, you did second it, didn't you?
Yeah, happy to, yeah.
Anybody else got any comment? No, so we'll go straight to the vote. All those in favour? And that's unanimous, Nikki.
Thank you.
Right, is there any other items Number 6,
Can I request, Chair, that we discuss Lakeside Super Bowl? Bring that to number 5. Lakeside, the
Yeah.
demolition of bowling alley.
yeah, so you'd like that moved into item 5?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Do you have a second there? Councillor Bell, all those in favour? Yeah, that's unanimous, Nikki. So, start off.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'd like to make comments on this, and then I've had a request from Councillor Norman and maybe some of his comments. To me, I see a parallel with the demolition of the council offices. And we made objection to that. We had reservations that there was no long-term plan for that beyond the car park. I saw that as rather different because there was a government fund there. If we had to use the money and we didn't get anything now, we would be stuck with the thing. This is a bit different because that's not a consideration. But we have the same issue here, that there's no long-term vision. If this is knocked down, it's going to become a car park. What's going to happen after that? And I would propose that we object to it being demolished until there's some longer term vision of what's going to happen beyond it being a car park. And that's my comment.
If you remember when the 4 guys came down from Dorset Council,
Yeah.
they said that the reason that they have to put a planning thing in and they have to show something for it to become. Once it's knocked down and it's level, they then offer it to developers. What would you like to do? If they leave, and I think the money is coming out of that fund
Yeah.
to knock it down. If I remember in what the guy said, they said they've got this, was it 23 million?
Yeah.
So they're knocking down the old council buildings, then they want to go and knock that one down. Then they want to open it up to developers. What would you like to do with it?
Yeah.
But in the interim period, they say we have a temporary car park.
Yeah, if that's the case, then I think that changes the situation rather. Yeah.
Councillor Rowe.
Yes, I'd just like to confirm that that is the case.
Yeah.
There's a paper that went through Cabinet to Dorset Council this morning.
Yeah.
Saying
Okay.
much that they've got this money, they've got to spend it within about a year, 18 months, and it's just an interim state.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a car park long term or even medium term. It's going to be
Right, okay. In that case, I withdraw that concern. Yes, so thank you for that clarification. That's all right. Right, I'll just read out concerns.
Shouldn't
from
you give it
Councillor
to
Orme.
Nikki so that she can just,
Okay,
after you've read it out, and then say
Okay.
Nikki typing it all up?
right.
Because it's from Councillor Norman.
I think I have a copy of them.
You've got a copy already.
So-
Oh, that's brilliant.
Okay, then. So I'll just read this out
Yeah, yeah.
later as it is then. There's no mention of the loss of indoor family entertainment and alternate provision in accordance with the town centre master plan and policy WEY2. Second point, a car park usage study is required to justify creating another car park, albeit a temporary car park. This will not create new visitors or car parkers, as the existing town centre car parks are rarely at capacity. Alternate temporary uses other than car parks need to be considered in accordance with WNP 46. Temporary activities and uses. Given that WNP, Weymouth Neighbourhood Plan has maturity, having been subject to Reg 14 consultation. Next point, there is inadequate detail, ref maintenance costs and rates to justify reason for demolition. Save money. There is no consideration of reusing the existing building. And reference is made to the 2021 consultation, but no details are given for that consultation, as this was a DC draft plan consultation. Final point, there is no mention of investment in the site using levelling up funding and whether this will create new jobs or affordable housing. See WNP 28, land at St Nicholas Street.
Thank you very much, Mr. Councillor Young. Councillor Wakeling.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going through the public comments. Almost all of them are about the loss of indoor leisure, and it's not an adequate replacement. A car park does not compensate for that. And one of the other, which is an anonymous comment, I think, from 2 Portway Close, also points out that they did archaeological investigations on part of the car park that did turn up some interesting artifacts, and there's no proposal to continue doing any more archaeology on the rest of the site. So there's potentially lost archaeology under the rest of the site, which maybe we should suggest they would like to do some more archaeology before they make it into a car park.
Councillor Rowe.
We're just making the points that Councillor Norman was putting some very valid objections, but the stuff that's went through Dorset Council today answers most of them, because there is a plan, there is money, there's a commitment in the paper that went through Cabinet today to develop the plans and guide the public consultation. So it is going to be redeveloped.
Yeah.
Just ask a question of councillor Earl. Was there any mention of what that redevelopment would be aiming to be? Whether it would be residential, retail, commercial, leisure?
Looks like a mixture.
Is there any commitment to a certain type of development? Just a point of interest, really.
The commitment is to go out to 2 directions: public consultation and also looking for private development partners in conjunction with the bowling site and Lord Key linked.
Well, we've got, I would say, a proposal. That have we any objection, or are we objecting, or we can ask? Could you look at a more archaeological request?
I guess then my proposal is that we object on the grounds that the change of use away from indoor leisure is we object to, without specification exactly what it is on this. And John, we have to go on what's on this application, not what they're talking about.
Yeah.
We're judging what's on the thing. And secondly, the lack of any proposals to do further archaeology on the site.
Yeah. Did you get all of them?
Can you just repeat that first bit? We object on the grounds that the change of use away from indoor leisure without specification of what it's.
Well, the proposal is to take indoor leisure and make it to car parking. That is what we are assessing.
Right, start again, please.
Sorry. Okay, so we object, firstly, on the change of use from indoor leisure to car parking, as the town badly needs indoor wet weather or weather attractions.
Yeah.
And secondly, we object that there is no proposal to do further archaeology despite the fruitful initial survey that was done.
Yeah.
Well, we've all heard. Do you have a seconder? Do we have, yeah, councillor Bell seconded. Would anybody else like to talk on the proposals? No? Well, we can go straight to the vote then. All those in favour? Oh. 3. Slightly. All those against?
Still.
Yeah, gets to decide and vote then.
Well, I'll go with, vote against the proposal. So the motion is defeated. We can now go back to, do we have another proposal, or is it now no objection? That's what I
Is that either of the 2 elements people would support, or we just no objection?
I'm looking for guidance.
John's
So I go no objection, see what happens. I'll propose no objection.
I'll second it. All those in favour of no objection?
That was predictable.
Thank you, John. All those against?
Decide and vote.
Guess what's going to happen?
I'm going to support my own motion.
We're gonna have to get a penalty.
All right,
Thank you.
right. We're still on item 6. Anybody else want any pulling out, or can we now vote on block the rest of the items in item 6, that we have no objection.
Can I ask, does anyone have any views on Island Nurseries, given this is their third attempt, I think, at trying to get this through? I know Councillor Norton probably did, but he's not here.
We've got several applications from
There are 6 in total.
Aren't a lot of them amendments or
They are.
variations, aren't they?
or fire approvals.
I've read of the case officer, and there's a lot of objections about them from the case officer. So I'm leaving it really up to Dorset Council, planning people.
We can always object at a later date, I guess. I mean, from my interpretation of this, and someone might be able to explain to me, I believe they've had a full application to do this work turned down.
Yeah.
So they're now putting in these prior approval for agricultural purposes, which I think is definitely cheating. But
Yeah, well, the case officer has said that in his comments and in his notes on this thing.
well, in which case, if we're agreeing with that, maybe we should object on the same grounds that it's been objected to for the reasons we previously objected to.
That would need, I think there's one for the 30, he wants to put a 30 space car park up on it. But I think it's all been covered by Dorset Council in a lot of what that's been
If
said.
it's covered.
Yeah,
We can simply say that we have no comments.
yeah.
Well, instead of no objection, we say no comment.
Yeah, we can say that.
Oh. Would you like to propose it on all those?
Yeah, I mean, do we want to no comment, or do we just leave it until our next meeting and see if David Northam comes
Yeah.
armed with facts?
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't have to comment on it by law, do we?
We don't have to, no.
Okay, can I propose that we do not respond to the Island Nurseries batch at this meeting?
Yeah.
To make you aware that it looks like it's the 8th of February. Deadline. So if we don't comment now, that would be.
We can comment any time up until the committee hears it. That is obviously the earliest possible date.
Deadline for comment on one correctly is the 8th of February.
That's what they say for consultants.
We've only got to the 8th of February to submit our.
We can submit our, but they may have started deliberating.
Yeah.
We run that risk, but.
I guess, yeah, comments may well have closed, but there's nothing to stop us from emailing the planning officer. I don't think at that point.
It's not something we normally do.
So are we going with no comment on those? Do we need a vote on it?
If we say no comment, it needs to stay, it can stay there, can't
Yeah.
it? Just vote on block.
I don't want to go no objection to it, so can we defer responding to the next meeting if for some reason it is decided in the next 4 weeks, then we lose, but that gives David the opportunity to come in and make a comment.
Yeah.
So on my proposal is we don't respond.
On all the island nurseries that were in item 6.
All 6 of them, I think.
So do we have a seconder for councillor Wakeling's comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, councillor Young, all those in favour? It's unanimous. Any other item in item 6? Councillor Hamilton.
I do apologise, Chair. New Look site, including areas of Chandler Close and Suter Way, Nursery Road, Windham. Is in there, I then spotted that. It was great that they came along and gave us the presentation. Let's use the comments that we raised, because there was, I think, a consensus amongst councillors. Councillor Waking's out the room. I think the 3 themes that I remember were jobs.
Yeah.
They were transport,
Sport and conservation, wasn't it?
and
Sustainability?
kind of mitigation of town centre. I don't know if it's ever been done before, can be required. But is there any way a company that size can offset dereliction? And can we make sure they have reasonable clothes in them? Can anyone remember any others? I think for me, the thing about jobs is, they're not all new jobs.
No, he said 50%, didn't he?
And we don't know whether they're talking full-time equivalent, we don't know what.
He said a mix, didn't he, of full-time, part-time, flexible working, and I suppose he was,
Training schemes.
yeah, there was training schemes, there was help for obviously the schools with getting work
They're
experience.
suggesting that we move, Mercery Road into discussion, and the three things that I remember us speaking about were jobs, transport, and any mitigation to support the town centre.
Are you making a proposal, are you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I don't object.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I don't object to it, but we would, I think we have a comment. We would like to see some transport scheme linked with this.
Transport was my main concern.
Yeah.
Being so far out of town.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if somebody lives in Portland, they're going to get a bus to King's Statue, then they're going to have to get another bus to go there to work twice a day.
Yeah.
Well,
we've been talking to the bus company to change the route. So instead of come up Preston, go around Preston and then go back down Preston Road, instead of going back down Preston Road, cut across Littlemore Road, drop people off at Home Bargains if they wish, and carry on round into the car park, the park and ride, and then go down into that. So that people from Preston can go there, like you say, instead of having two buses, just get on that bus, go round, goes back into the town and does the loop again. That's what we're at the moment in discussions with the bus company.
I mean, now we've got Morrison's, Sainsbury's, Aldi, B&M,
Costa, McDonald's.
Dunelm, and then Marks and Spencer, and all in this site. I mean, it's going to be a core place for people to go for their shop.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what census data, but it's nearly 1 in 4, it's between 1 in 5 and 1 in 4 households is carless in this town as a whole.
Yeah.
So then we need to think about that transport for sure.
I'm sure the bus company could do more imaginative things. I mean, the number 10 used to run straight through to Portland. They used to just change numbers. It went through town, change buses.
Yeah. So Councillor Hamilton has asked that we make a comment on this one. Do we have to move it into item 5 then, out of 6? Or can we just make a comment that we would?
You need to vote on it separately, if you make a separate comment, because at item 6 you're voting for.
No objection.
Yeah.
So we have to vote to move it out of item 6 and into item 5, which is proposed by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Bell. All those in favour? So that can go now into item 5 for a comment up to DC that we fully support this proposal, but we would like to see, what did we use that with when he was talking about the transport? We would like to see
Further consideration?
further consideration for transport links for around the town and Portland.
We are currently doing a consultation on the transport plan as well. aren't we?
Yeah, they are.
Councillor Harris shared with me that when he raised the park and ride with them at the meeting, there was kind of a blank look on their faces as if it hadn't been considered. So we need to do everything we can to push this park and ride to the top of DC's thing.
So
shocking.
have we got a proposal to vote on that? If you could read out what we just said.
We fully support this proposal, but we would like to see further consideration for transport links for around the town and Portland.
Can we say public transport?
Yeah.
public
active
transport
travel.
links.
Yeah.
Because it's got plenty of parking spaces. I'm not worried about
Yeah.
how many cars can get there. That's not the problem.
So public transport links for around the town of Portland and active travel, did you say?
Yes, please.
Yeah. That's cycleways and.
Yeah.
Could I add, Chair, and I'll speak very slowly, Nikki, is that the developer's own document refers to chapter 9 of the NPPF, the National Planning Policy Framework. I quote, paragraph 104. I quote, transport issues should be considered from the earliest stages of the development proposals. And I think they should be in direct contact with bus companies, really. Those people, they need money, they need ideas.
All right. So we have the proposal, proposed by councillor Hamilton, seconded by councillor Bell. Yeah?
Yeah, why not?
All those in favour? And that's unanimous. Right, so can we now vote on item 6?
I don't know, like this.
Are they in there?
No, we've covered them all, is it?
So all the planning applications left in item 6,
I propose no
objection, seconded by councillor Hamilton. All those in favour? There we go. Thank you very much.
No comment, yeah.
We now move on to item 7, which are tree-related planning applications. It's recommendation that the committee agrees the standard response wording of Weymouth Town Council supports this application. I would request that at least 2 climate-tolerant trees are planted in lieu of each tree that is proposed to be removed.
Can I, sorry to prolong the meeting. I did notice this. I think it should say climate change tolerant trees, not just climate
Yeah.
tolerant. Could we add the word change into our standard response? Is that fine with other members?
Yeah, where are you looking?
So our standard response is that 2 climate tolerant trees are planted.
Yeah.
I think it should say 2 climate change.
Climate change stress.
Climate change stress tolerant trees. The geographer amongst us can help me there.
Appropriate, why don't we just say 2 appropriate trees?
Oh, well, that's
Because
right.
it's forward-
That could
forward
be
thinking, isn't it?
Can mean anything at all.
So we've got a proposal to change the wording of our standard response, proposed by councillor Wakely, seconded by councillor Bell. All those in favour? And that is unanimous. We can now move on to item 8, which is planning applications respond under delegated powers. We don't have any. Item 9, we have an appeal. 53 Rodwell Road. An appeal has been made to the Secretary of State. Appeal against refusal of Dorset Council. They can be appealed online. If Weymouth Town Council wishes to withdraw any representations. What was our
No, there was
no objection? Same?
Sustained, yeah.
So we have a proposal that we stick with our earlier response. Yes? Yeah, seconded by councillor Hamilton.
Chair, could I just have 30 seconds to read why they refused it? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Visual quality.
Conservation area. Is it what the listed building?
Yes.
That wasn't easy to read.
A nice short brief one. This proposal is of poor visual quality and carries elements of poor design by reason of its depth towards the western boundary, bulky proportions and excessively blank appearance.
I seem to remember them.
There you go. Oh, what's that colour?
Listed buildings on the other side of the road. You know what, it's just stick to our previous no comment.
Do we need a vote?
You need to vote if it's
Yeah.
no comment, it's still a
Yeah.
recommendation.
So, do we need a proposal and a second or just a vote?
As per the recommendation.
Yeah.
I propose we do not withdraw our original.
Seconded by councillor Young. All those in favour? That is unanimous. We can now move on to item 10, which is sitting out licence applications. There are none. Item 11, other development consultations. Members are asked.
I've just looked at this, it's a 26-page questionnaire. You may want to respond, you don't have to respond. Or you can, as individual councillors, respond on your own behalf. Don't have you.
I agree that it's a 26-page questionnaire to a level of detail that
Yeah.
is not required. I am grateful to whoever put this on the agenda because I cannot believe my eyes. I think we should we can reply by email on headed note paper. This is enabling street referenda to agree and support development within their street. The government is going to fund local authorities to do this, but what is it going to achieve? The CPRE suggests that it will enable people who want to build extensions. It's not about, and it will just push up house prices, as CPRE says. I must say, it's a great idea to get streets involved. Wasn't that what neighbourhood planning was about? And see what a happy picnic that turned out to be. This is not about increasing house supply. This is the most ridiculous amount of junk I've ever read. Did you get that, Nikki?
There used to be echo behind you as well.
My words are my own, I have.
So,
I cannot believe this.
so,
And if you look, they've been very careful. They've set out a proportion of responses and support there has to be, depending on the number of properties in the street. This is developers developing their own street. We need money to build housing. This is nothing to do with housing.
so members are asked to consider the consultation document and agree any, and then what did you say? And
And agree response. We could submit a response on behalf of the council email. As
Yeah.
for Councillor Hamilton's comments, or you can comment individually if you are
Yeah.
passionate about them.
should we go individually?
If I can add to Lucy's comments, I mean, the problem with this is just going to encourage an insane level of NIMBYism. A block of 6 people on your street can suddenly form a block that just can veto any planning obligation on your street.
Oh, but the exciting thing, it's not about vetoing, it's about supporting development in the street.
I think it's a backward step. I'm all for people getting involved. As Lucy said, the neighbourhood plan's a good way for that. This is just going to, and if you will end up with the haves maintaining what they have and preventing.
Yeah, so can we have a proposal that, to the recommendation? Members are asked to consider the consultation document and agree a response to be submitted, clearly stating which questions are being responded to. The deadline for responses is the 2nd of February, 2024. And this can be done individually by all councillors.
Well, Chair, I think I'd like us to respond as a council.
Yeah.
I think.
Alternatively, you can email your response to the consultation questions to streetvotes@levellingup.gov.uk. Chair, are we entitled to have any expletives in our reply? So I think that they are permitting a free text response. I think we should take them up on that generous offer, because we're as keen as they are to see housing unlocked and the potential of Britain's future generations and their property dreams lived in real life.
So, What's the proposal?
Can I suggest that we, obviously, this is up to you, but do we? You have a steer of where you want to take it, and then we liaise directly with the chair and draft the response.
Yeah.
Because if we haven't got enough time now to go through
We've got until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Probably, we then, but,
Hold on, I think it's just a simple objection. Is that not what we want? It's complex, it's costly for overstretched local authorities to run. We'd rather see this money invested in house building.
I mean, if we're sort of giving a steer to officers, which I think is the efficient thing to do at this time of the evening, I would like to mention the fact that I think this will enlarge the gap between those who are on the property ladder and those who are struggling to get on it. And I think this will not support development. This will slow down.
we actually have to get this up so we can see which questions, because there's 26 questions.
email generic response.
Sorry?
Yeah.
We can email generic response.
Yeah.
What I feel that maybe the best way is, Nikki's got some comments, Nikki can draft something. For your approval, you agree it or amend it, and then it's.
Well, it should go through the whole committee, I think.
No, you will get a steer from the committee.
Yeah.
Because we've only got
Friday.
the deadlines.
Eh?
The second
Deadline's
Friday, I know.
That's why I think a simple, we object, it's costly. It's,
Yeah, but you've got to
Pressure.
respond to each specific question.
no, we haven't got to
No?
anything.
No?
No, we haven't. I don't think so. They'd like us to, of course they would.
I think that's them trying to discourage people.
But there's an email address there. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's an email address. And we're really grateful to the government for all their suggestions on how to improve the planning system. We know they've worked hard to do that. But this is A, costly, B, a pressure on under-resourced local authorities, C, doesn't build any new houses, and D, increases the gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Yep.
It might work for Mayfair where they want to extend down towards the centre of the earth.
No, but we've got.
No, we'd have to put that.
No, just go back to Lucy's original, which she's just said then.
Okay.
We've got about 5 points that we could email.
It's all on video, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, is it?
Yeah.
So we object on the grounds that it's costly, it's a pressure on under-resourced local authorities, does not build any new houses and increases the gap between the haves and have-nots.
Thank you.
So there's a proposal that we email in.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with that? We've got a proposal from councillor Hamel, seconded by councillor Orrell. All those in favour of responding like that?
Yeah.
That's unanimous. So that's item 11. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yep. Item 12, traffic calming, we have none. Item 13, we have none. Item 14, information items. Would anybody like to comment on any of the information items?
Does sorry, there was that lawn one there and drives.
That was an information update, as you asked for information at the last meeting.
Yeah.
So Nikki's, included that within there.
So we're noting that.
Yeah.
Okay, and did we note anything on trees? Because we asked about that last time.
I emailed the tree team, I've received no response.
Okay, thank you.
Is that going to be minuted, that we've had no response?
Would you like me to minute it?
Yeah,
Yes,
please. We've asked the question and they don't bother answering.
And just to make you aware, Chair, that councillor Northern has emailed through his verbal update on the neighbourhood plans.
Right.
As it's an information only item, it can be included
Look,
within the minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
I'm going to attach his email. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, in its entirety.
Okay. Yes. Can now go on into item 15. Any emergency items?
No.
No? Right. Well, at coming up 9:15. Thank you all. I know it's been a longer meeting. And I think we've done very well tonight.